Hello and welcome to Quarterlight, your car brochure channel, and in today's episode we go commercial with the Renault Trafic and Renault Master. Hello and welcome back, and if you're new to Quarterlight, we're a car brochure channel here on YouTube looking at car brochures from around the world for the 60s, 70s, 80s and 90s and sometimes beyond that as well. So if you're interested in cars and car brochures, please consider subscribing. So yes, we'll be looking at the Renault Trafic and the Renault Master on today's episode. Two vans actually produced by Renault, came out in 1980. They had various facelifts, but this seems to be a very early brochure. Now, we have touched on the Renault Trafic and the Renault Master very briefly in like a full range brochure, but I thought we'd look at the actual proper brochure itself this time, because I do particularly like these vans. They're very interesting, particularly this, the Renault Master. Very unusual design, very unusual big sliding door that goes all the way to the roof. And I like French vans, they always do things a little bit differently. No date, incidentally, on this brochure as far as I can see, like a printed in type date, but there is a little bit of a note on there that says, illustrated here is the wide Renault Trafic and Renault Master range to be introduced progressively into the UK, started in 1981, so we know it's a pretty early brochure for these unusual vans. The vans we looked at last time or kind of glimpsed at in this very kind of tiny full range brochure was actually dated 1987, so a little bit earlier. So there's a few little changes. Like you can see, there's like this black area around the front on this particular Renault Trafic version, and on this one it doesn't seem to be the case. Also, you can see on this particular early Trafic, you can see a little blanking plug. I don't know if you can see that, or that's where the indicator would normally be. A little bit of a blanking plug there, which is very interesting on this picture. You can see on this later one where that little side indicator is. There's other little things on this later one. We've got these black door handles, and then this like chrome or chrome look handle. I've never actually seen one with these particular handles on. And also on this one, interestingly, this sort of extra little handle. I don't know if you can see that, which is a little bit unusual, but like I say, these French vans always have very unusual little things on them, and I think the Trafic, or the smaller van of the two, is probably the less interesting one. The Master is a really weird one, but still some unusual little features on this smaller van as well. And similarly, we got a little side indicator on this later van, and none showing on this early van. Now, it might be the case that these early vans were taken before there were any UK spec versions out there, hence without them side indicators. We can certainly notice on this it looks like it is a left-hand drive version, and on the earlier vans, or rather the newer vans, we can see that these are right-hand drive UK spec, so that might be the difference, because we know that large brochure is a very early one, before they actually arrived in the UK essentially. And then if I fold today's brochure out so we can see the back cover and the front cover at the same time, you can see the full picture of this particular very early Renault Master. Very, very unusually designed for a van, aren't they? Like I said, that huge sliding door, these unusual sloping taillights at the back. It's very unusually proportioned. I really like them. Also, these door handles as well very much remind me of sort of like Fiat Strada, Fiat Ritmo, with those like circular designs. So very unusual. And I remember these running around, and I always thought at the time what an unusual van they were, but they were really big vans actually. Anyway, let's open the brochure up and have a look inside. We get a glimpse on the inside and also a front image of this very early Trafic. Anyway, let's start by looking at those interior shots. An interesting functional interior. I think it's equally interesting on the inside. Very French, very Renault. Little Renault badge in the centre of the steering wheel there. Even got the keys showing on this particular example. We've got a speedo, no rev counter of course though, but another little Renault badge in the gauge there as well. And then these very unusual sort of orange stroke yellow switch gear. And if we turn it to one side, we can just start making out this example is in sort of like a Kermit the Frog green colour. Always had very unusual colours, which I quite like. Brightens up the day, doesn't it, when you see a very brightly coloured van. And then if we go down, this looks like a silver example. You can see the other different variations of the Renault Master in the distance there. Lots of different ways you could option it, and we'll certainly see some of those images in a moment. Another look at those sort of orangey yellow sliding lever type designs, and then these seats, which for a van actually they look quite comfortable, don't they? And then we've got this huge gear lever just popping straight up. It tells us Renault Trafic, Renault Master. Started in 1981, the phased introduction of the Renault Trafic and the Renault Master. A new range of light commercial vehicles signifies the Renault company's commitment to offering the fullest possible range of alternatives in all forms of road transport, from the smallest private car to the largest articulated lorry. Then we get this image of this early Trafic. Again, you can see it's a left-hand drive version. And also you can see those sorts of like stripy seats that we had a look at a moment ago. You can also make out on this left-hand drive version, you can see the wipers parked the opposite way as what they would be on the right-hand drive versions. And again, if I just throw that later brochure up, we can see we don't have that black trim running around the top of the lights there on that earlier version. Also, we don't have that big Renault badge on there either, do we? Now, the text for this one says the Renault Trafic and Renault Master are compact but spacious load carriers built to a highly advanced technical specification. Payload is up to 1,000 kilograms in the Trafic and up to 1,800 kilograms in the Master. Seating, driver control, soundproofing and ventilation are of standards normally expected by the private motorists, recognising the increased importance of driver comfort in this class of vehicle. And then it opens up to this really colourful diagrams of all the different ways you can specify your Renault Trafic and Renault Master, and even the options for it to be front wheel drive or rear wheel drive with either vans, which is interesting. I believe they also came up with a 4-wheel drive version as well, so that's a little bit different. But we'll certainly have a look at, we'll zoom in on some of these images and we'll have a look at, in a bit more detail how you could actually specify your vans to be. Well, it's showing the Renault Trafic front wheel drive version, so you get a short wheelbase version, windows or all steel, I guess. Looks like we can have a raised roof version for a long wheelbase, and then various other different specifications, because you can have it as a petrol 1397cc or a diesel 2068cc. So the choice was there. So a few little design choices: petrol, diesel, windows, no windows, high roof, not a high roof, short wheelbase, long wheelbase. And then it continues to show we can have a short wheelbase or a long wheelbase with that raised roof, windows or not, and also this sort of cab floor only versions, again both in petrol and diesel. And of course larger payloads, or 800 kilogram or 1,000 kilogram payloads. We've also got these very interesting 9-seater deluxe minibuses as well, again either as a petrol or a diesel. I do particularly think that 1397cc version seems very small for a big van, particularly when you're looking at this long wheelbase version with a raised roof, larger payload of 1,000 kilograms, still using that 1397cc engine. Surely it's more sense to get that diesel, I would think, at least. And I guess particularly when you're looking at the minibuses as well, fully loaded 9-seater deluxe minibus, 1397cc, doesn't seem much to pull all those people around. And like I say, you don't even have to say if you've got the choice of front or rear wheel drive, amazingly enough. So again, similar sort of specifications. You can have a petrol 1397cc, although this time you can also have a 1647cc version as well. But of course you can have the diesel 2068 as well, also showing this sort of cab chassis only with a long wheelbase. And then further down, rear wheel drive versions of a short wheelbase van with the different petrols, 1,000 kilograms. Also now we've got drop side trucks with a 1397cc petrol or a 2068cc diesel. Looks like we can fit less people in the rear wheel drive version. It's showing it as an 8-seater now, not a 9-seater. But again, like I say, lots of different variations you could have for the Renault Trafic. So again, a similar idea with the Master, front or wheel drive. We'll start with looking at the front wheel drive versions. A petrol 1995cc with a payload of 1400 kilograms this time, or a diesel with a 2445cc diesel unit. It looks like we can always also go up to 1800 kilograms on these long wheelbase versions. Again, very unusual, all this glazing on these vans you can have as well. And again, more variations, long wheelbase without the glass or a short wheelbase with the glass. Plenty of choice there. And more short wheelbase versions, petrol or diesel glazed. And then these unusual cab floor only versions, short wheelbase, 1995cc with a 1400 kilogram payload, or 2445cc diesels with that 1400 payload. And then further variation of this cab floor only, this time a long wheelbase with an 1800 kilogram payload, again petrol or diesel. These 14-seater minibuses, short wheelbase, petrol or diesel, or these huge 17-seater minibuses, again petrol or diesel with a long wheelbase. And again, you've also got that option for it to be rear wheel drive, so lots and lots of choice. Again, it's very similar. We can get drop side trucks now, and more of these sort of long wheelbase vans, and all that glazing in there as well. The drop side trucks now can be even these long wheelbase versions, so very practical vehicle as a long wheelbase version for sure. And of course the cab chassis only versions to put whatever you want on the back there. And of course the cab chassis versions or long wheel versions of those, and even these small short wheelbase tipper trucks. So lots of variations that you could do with a lot of vans, to be honest with you. I mean, Transit had lots of different variations as well. So I'm not saying these were unique, but certainly lots of different options. And I've also seen these vans, the Trafic in particular, even the Master I think I've seen as well, as various different motorhome conversions as well. People like auto sleeper like we've seen before. So an interesting van with lots of different options. I think the most unusual thing is you could get it as a front wheel or a rear wheel drive version if you wanted. And like I say, I seem to remember seeing some 4-wheel drive versions of these as well. And the back page, look at the rear there, and also a bit of a description of the choices. But let's zoom in on the images first. So this is really showing the rear of the vans and if it's configured as a high top version or the standard version of the Trafic there, showing you how the windows are on those versions, and also for the Master, the different sort of door designs, whether they're sort of conventional one which we've all seen on the left there, kind of like a barn door type design, or this very unusual one on the yellow one where it lifts up. I don't know if that's maybe better for a camper conversion, I don't know, but I've not seen the yellow version of them that tailgate before. And then a glimpse on the inside of the Trafic and the Master. Again, the Master looks very unusual on the inside, doesn't it? And in the end, it kind of like sums it all up by saying, from a basic, essentially practical design concept, an almost unlimited choice of variants is possible. Front or rear wheel drive, chassis or non-chassis construction, short or long wheelbase and body, raised roof, all steel or glazed, petrol or diesel, a variety of goods or passenger interiors, combinations of sliding or hinged doors. Different engine choices on the Trafic: petrol 1397cc, 1647cc or a diesel 2069cc, and then on the Master, petrol 1995cc or a diesel 2445cc. It goes on to say, it is clear that even with the range of standard variations, most needs can be satisfied. However, there are also considerable scope for the production of custom-built special orders, for which much of the bodywork finishings will be carried out by UK manufacturers. Kind of like thinking, maybe I've even seen an ambulance version of those Masters, actually thinking about it. The vehicles illustrated in this brochure are left-hand drive, as the right-hand drive UK models were not available at time of going to press. So there we go, kind of answers our questions. Yes, all left-hand drive because they didn't have any right-hand drive versions, just showing how early this brochure is. And then of course the little Renault UK address at the time, and the kind of like standard thing that Renault used to do on brochures, even stickers on their cars and trucks. Renault recommends Elf oil. Seem to remember, was it Citroën that did Total? You know, they had them little like connections with each other, didn't they? So there we go, those interesting French vans again with these Renault commercials. I certainly remember a lot of these growing up, running around, so they sold in reasonable numbers in the UK, and I'm sure they sold really well in France and continental Europe as well. Do you remember these cars? Like I said, or vans I should say. Yes, I remember them, but I never drove one or even had a lift in one, so love to know how they actually drove, particularly compared to like a transit van, which we've all been in at some point. Thank you so much for watching Quarter Light today. Please do like and subscribe if you've not done already, and we'll see you very soon. So for now, we'll say take care and goodbye.